Hey, am I going to take this guy? What? I got it. זה בסדר? ואתה? How do I start to maspid an Adam Gadol? How do I start to maspid a person who I believe was Aseh L'Charav? To use the rabbi's words, maybe even as an inflection, a giant. I start by defining what a Gavra Rabbah is, what a giant is. Rav Chaim Ozer from Vilna once met up with the Rebbe of Ostrosver, and he had heard about the Rebbe of Ostrosver, his tremendous geonut, his pilpul. He had to meet him. And when they met up, the Rebbe told him, let me tell you what I think is a Gavra Rabbah. And he quoted the Gemara in Makot that said that Rava says how stupid people are, kama tipshi shar inshi, that they get up in front of a Sefer Torah, but they don't get up in front of a Gavra Rabbah. By the Sefer Torah, it says arba'im, you get 40 lashes. But the rabbis came and batzru chada, and they made it less. And the Rebbe asked Rav Chaim Ozer, arba'im yakenu, 40 to 39, that's already in Sefer Dvarim, it should be earlier. And earlier, we all know it says tisperu chamishim yom, and we don't count 50 days, we count 49 days. Explain the Rebbe, you understand what a Gavra Rabbah is. The Gavra Rabbah is not about the pilpul, but it's the person who is doeg lahavchit ulahorid makam yudi. It's a person who's so in tune with Yidden with Jews that he wants to take away a little bit of that hurt. One makkah. This is the Gavra Rabbi. When I first talk about Rabbi Mandelbaum, Zichrono Livracha, for me, he was like Rab Chaim. He was my personal Rab Chaim. Na'ed Doresh v'na'ed Mekayim, a Rav Chesed. I mentioned to Shmuel that he wasn't just a person who just gave over Vortlach, but he lived with every ounce in his body the Torah's Chaim. I'd like to come back to his Chesed, but now I'd like to describe the Ish Torah, 2 Torah Tmimas. He loved to be Mechadesh, he loved the Torah Tmima. I was almost positive that one of his favorites, being part of the Chesed, is in this week's Parsha. Everybody knows Rabbi Akiva, Zeklal Gadol BaTorah V'ahavta Re'ach Kamocha. Rabbi Mandelbaum loved quoting the Ben Azai. Zeh Sefer Toldot Adam, Klal Gadol Mizahav. And the Torah Tmima explained, as opposed to Rabbi Akiva, who just said, Ma da'alech sani lechavercha lo tavid, that which your friend don't do to you if you don't like it. However, comes Ben Azai and adds Zeh Sefer Toldot Adam, that everyone is created b'dmut Adam, b'tzelem Elokim. And if you're being mekel, if you're being mezalzel in the kavod of somebody else, you're being mekel, you're degrading the dmut of the Yotzer of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's number one that represented Rabbi Mandelbaum, the respect, the unconditional love that he had for everybody. The second Torah Tmima, which again represents his passion, which I'll mention a lot, is that he was a passionate Zionist. And he loved quoting the Torah Tmima, Shmot Vav, Perek Vav, V'otzeiti, V'yitzalti, V'galti, V'lakachti, and the fifth Lashon, V'yiveti etchem. And he quoted the Torah Tmima, and he said, you don't drink because we're not in Eretz Yisrael. And how proud Rabbi Mandelbaum was to quote Rav Menachem Kasher, to say, we're here, we're in Eretz Yisrael, we're in Medinat Yisrael, we're going to drink. We're going to be able to understand the zchut, the matana, the gift that the Ribbono Shel Olam has given us. So the Ish Torah, I want to go to talk about some of my favorite Rabbi Mandelbaum quotes. It's hard to limit it, because literally when I was thinking about it, when I give shir every day, I use his vocabulary and how he explained things every day, even unconsciously. Whether it's V'samtem otam, how the Rabbi and the Rebbitzin taught me what it means to be the elixir of life, Samachayim, how you could take Torah and provide life, but also be the Samamavis. Some of my favorite Rabbi Mandelbaum quotes, so much of the vocabulary which I came to learn from the Rabbi. Number one, and I want to thank my brother who I spoke to, and he's grieving with me, together with Marilyn, the whole family. Number one, he was okay saying, I'm the second best rabbi. I'm the second best. I'm okay to be the second best rabbi in the world. He would say, you're of connubial age, Higi Azman. Number three, you're entitled to your erroneous opinion. These ones, when we get to Sefer Vayikra, Gilui Arayos, he would talk about the licentious and lascivious acts of Gilui Arayos. I remember like yesterday, he started a speech in the Hewlett Shul where he said, a good speech should be like a woman's skirt, long enough to cover the subject and short enough to create interest. It wasn't just the vocabulary, it was the manner of how he expressed himself. B'te'avon, lekavod Shabbos, we're happy that you've joined us. Thank you for the succulent steak. The welcome to the Mandelbaum home. He was gregarious. He didn't have the tolerance of people with so much hubris. His love for vocabulary wasn't ostentatious or bombastic or grandiloquent. How many words did I use when I teach, like fastidious, to be able, just his ebullience, his thirst for life, his passion, it was infectious, his laugh. I'm here now just thinking about how much, just wanting to laugh with him. The passion, he was passionate about Torah, about sports. I remember like yesterday on a Chol HaMoed being at the Spiegelman home, and right afterwards I just think like Mariano, like I think messed it up. I'm like, come on! Torah, sports, politics, philosophy. He was just connected. I remember thirsty listening to his drashot with the talis, going and walking around and just like having the whole audience. So maybe I was one of the few that liked the 25 minutes, the 30 minutes. It's fine. I was there. I was Shoteb et Samal Divreihem. Give me more, Rabbi. Give me more. Give me more of your chidushim. You're creative. He gave me that thirst to be mechadesh. The walking into the house. He was a person who was an ish of Seder. Now, some people would call that OCD. But he was an ish of Seder where he would walk around and he would be walking around, but he would say, hold on one second. This thing is a little bit off. And I hear the Rebbe said, Abe! But you have that little part. And right before Shabbos about walking to shul, and he says, Leon, I have to go. Because he was late to shul and he had to get to shul on time after he had called for the minyan. And he was sharp. The dressing, how he dressed. He was one of the suits I remember. This blue suit with this yellow tie. Sharp. Just so sharp. And then I remember just the transition of when he was out of the rabbinate and the tremendous transformation, how the Rebbe said now all of a sudden he was wearing colored shirts. And it was like, holy cow, panim chadashot bo lakan. It's like, you have to make a bracha. It was just tremendous. Returning to the Ish Chesed, the Rabbi and the Rebbitzin were a team. Beso zo ishto kegufo, the epicenter of his life. The loss of the Rabbi and the Rebbitzin is the paradigmatic expression of the concept. When a person dies, it's a chilul Hashem, a halal, a hollow emptiness. Their uniqueness, the radiance, the infectious smile and laugh. The achnasat orchim, Avraham kishmo kenhu, et hanefesh asher asu v'charan, as Chazal teach us, sheich nisan tachat kanfei hashchina, the dynamic duo of how many people the Rabbi and the Rebbitzin helped see the goodness of the world, the goodness of the Ribono Shel Olam. The concept of achnasat orchim, of Gedol Achnasat Orchim Me HaKapalat Pnei HaShechina. It's not even greater, but it emanates from the Kabbalat Pnei HaShechina. In conclusion, I have 3 small emails, and I hope these Dvarim Shiyotzim Min Alev Nichnasim El Alev. Rabbi, you've taught me not only to have an Ozen Shomea, but to love with a full heart. To have a leib shomea, to not only learn how to hear, to listen, to not only to be observant, but be religious. And 3 small emails to express how much you both were my rock, always in my corner, show love to my family, the emptiness that I feel, that we feel without you, the word safety net, how many times I had that. Ellie spoke to me a couple of days ago just about the Torah, and I know that on one level this is a goodbye, but I know there's so much of a glimpse of the world that you and the Rebbitzin created. 3 emails. An email from September 27, 2015. Khan came home and told us how magnificently you spoke. Beautiful idea and great delivery. Very proud of you as always. Chag Sameach. An email I sent May 16th, 2018, titled, "Thank you for the advice and encouragement." Rabbi and Rebbitzin, thank you so much for everything. Words can't express the love and feelings of Hakarat HaTov I have towards you both. Less than 9 days later, May 25th, 2018, titled, "Thank you." You might say that this is just a stam thank you, but we know each other well enough. When I tell you that the 5 minutes today was priceless and touched me in the deepest way, Rabbi, thank you. Thank you for being you. Bila Mavas Lanetzach, Umachad Elohim Dima, Yakol Panim, Becherpata Mo Yisir Miakol Haaretz, Ki Adonai Tiber, Tei Neshamat Rabbi Tzorah Chaim, and I'm sure whatever Gag that HaKadosh Baruch Hu's there, all I'm saying is raise the roof more. The Schuyot, raise it, raise it, raise it, because of all the neshamos that you touched.
מי היה מאמין שאני נעמדת פה? רק ארבעה ימים אחרי שאימא שלי נפטרה. לאחל שלום לאבא שלי. ואני מתנצלת שאני צריכה לדבר באנגלית. My sweetest Abba, you and Ima had a love affair. As a child and as an adult, in my mind's eye, you were on a pedestal, a magical couple. Abba, I used to tell you that I would look at Pai, watching you in the Beit Knesset or anywhere else, while you were giving a drasha. He would sit in that first row, and there was nothing else that mattered, Abba. You were his Abi, and that was the absolute and ultimate best. Abba, I've watched you look at me and all of my brothers, or your grandchildren, with that same twinkle in your eye, that we were the best. Abba, how many times did I say that you should stop embarrassing me? But Abba, my sweet, sweet Abba, inside, deep down, I loved that you were my biggest fan. We all did. Abba, you're smart, warm and kind. You had a passion for Torah and a thirst for knowledge. But most of all, Abba, you loved people. To you, knowing someone's name was of absolute importance. You would tell us all the time, always greet someone with a smile. And you, Abba, קיבלת את כל אחד בסבר פנים יפות. Abba, you were a people person extraordinaire. You taught me, Abba, about passion, deep empathy for all those around us. You taught me derech eretz. You taught me never to push something aside, but to seize the moment. I have a vivid memory of you at the pulpit in the shul in Edmonton. I was a little girl. And I loved running up just to stand next to you. I loved watching you speak, and you always spoke from your heart, Abba. You were my go-to person for all my Torah thoughts. I would tell you each time how I needed your help to prepare a Dvar Torah or a speech I was about to give. And even at the last minute, you'd help me figure out exactly what to say. You would take a sefer and sometimes many sfarim, and you would say, Chanala, what do you want to say? And we would take it from there. Abba, now I sit by myself. With my thoughts, and I long for your help to find my words. But do you remember coming to Israel in 1977? You and Yossi and I. And you would drive in that red Volvo, and we'd go into the shuk, and you'd roll down the windows, and you'd say, Shalom, Manishma. Yossi and I wanted to hide, and we'd say, Abba, stop embarrassing us. But that is who you were, Abba. Then and now, the mayor of the town, everyone's friend, the kind of grandpa, and the father, friend, and mentor to so many more. Your love of Torah, Abba, your avodat Hashem was boundless. From the time I was little, I would see you being kovea itim leTorah. If you were perplexed, you took another sefer and you searched for another answer, something that made sense. Abba, you were so wise. I once asked you a question, Abba, about the Shoah. I said to you, how could that have happened? How could it have happened? And I said, this is what a Kadosh Baruch Hu would want. And you looked at me and you said, Chana, I can't accept that that was Hashem's will. It was humanity and it was people that let this happen. I remember being so struck by that thought because I too, like you, Abba, believe in the kindness of Hashem. You've touched so many lives, Abs. You and Ima together. So many people have a love of Hashem and Torah and mitzvot and Eretz Yisrael and Medinat Yisrael. And you always led by example. But Abba, I know that your greatest treasure was us, your children, your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren. You'd tell me during the last few years, what more could I ask for, Chanel? What more? This is my Gan Eden. Well, I watch all of you. You loved learning with your grandchildren. And you loved learning with those kind of grandchildren. Your greatest joy was to buy a gift of a sefer. Just recently, you gave books to Shmuel, to נחשון, to Yonatan, and to Tamar. Last year, Abba, on Simchat Torah, you came home from the Beit Knesset with tears in your eyes. You walked into the house. Telling us that Tamar had bought you, yes, you, Abba, her Saba, an Aliyah Torah, that she would take upon herself learning Kol HaTanach Kula. And just now, Abba, this Simchat Torah, just now, only 2 days ago, Tamar came downstairs to hold your hand and to tell you that she had finished with Zot HaBracha. You were so touched and so proud. You taught us all the meaning of Olam Haba is a good zach. Learning Torah is the best zach. Learning Torah nach and nach. Olam Haba is a good zach. Now, learn Torah. Watch from above all of us. Look at what you and Ima have created. You taught me as a child, Abba, and then all your grandchildren, and my brothers, and even your great-grandchildren, from when we were little. Slicha toda, bevakasha, shalosh milim yafot. Slicha toda, bevakasha, shalosh milim kalot. These 3 simple words, Abba. So now, Abba, I say to you, I'll always be your Chanala. This past Friday night, I came downstairs and sat by your bed and held your hand. And you put your hands on my head, Abba, and you gave me a bracha like you've done for the last 56 years. I think I knew, Abba, that it would be the last time. I feel your hands on my head now, Abba, and the kiss that you would give me on my forehead each time. Never, Abba, was there a conversation, never, that you and I had, and you didn't end with saying, Chana, I love you. Abba, I love you too. You, like Ima, are my hero, my Abba, just my sweet, sweet Abba. I ask you forgiveness if I ran out of patience, Abba, or if I didn't give you the right respect. Thank you, Abba, for giving me direction and guidance and unfailing love. And lastly, Abba, please take care of all of us with Ima from above. Abba, you died from a broken heart. She won't live. She was the love of your life. She was your beloved and your very, very best friend. Look and see the zchut that you have. V'zakeni legadel banim ufnei banim, chachamim nevonim, ohavei Hashem, yirei Elokim, anshe emet, zera kodesh b'Hashem dvekim. Abba, I just love you, Abba. I just love you. Tanuach, Abba. Rest, Abba. Rest.
Sitting in my sukkah in Bergenfield,
just a week ago. I could never imagine I'd be here today, burying both you and Ima. Just 4 days. As I had a call Debbie this morning, 5:25, I realized that just last week, Thursday, my brother Yosef woke me up at almost the exact same time, telling me about Ima. A few days ago, I stood in this exact same place, telling you that anything I say certainly wouldn't do justice to the person that my mother was, and now my father, and the incredible life that they both lived. In case anyone was wondering, nothing's changed in 4 days. Here I am, facing the challenge of trying to say the right words to truly encapsulate who my father was and the impact that he had on so many people. Anyone who knows my father knows that he loved to smile and talk with people. I remember as a kid, similar to Chana, driving in the car, and at every red light he'd stop and he'd wave to the person next to him. Most parents tell their kids not to talk to strangers, not Abba. When I said, Abba, what are you doing? Why are you waving at strangers? He simply responded, why not? If I can say hello to another person and make them smile, why shouldn't I? For those of you wondering, we did get pretty ugly stares sometimes, but that didn't deter Abba. And at the time, I felt like Abba might have lost it. But as I got older, I realized how powerful the waves and smiles are. My father was a rabbi in Hewlett. He would sit there in his study on every Friday, calling people, wishing them good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom, witnessing all the effort that Abba put in to making those people feel special and important, had a profound impact on my life. I tried to call my parents a few times a week, personally Erev Shabbos, Chag, birthdays, anniversaries. I called my father one time before Shabbat, and he said to me that Aunt Ruth's birthday is coming up next week. I said, okay, Abba, send me her number, I'll call. At the time, I couldn't tell you the last time I spoke to Aunt Ruth or saw her. What I can tell you is that when I called to wish Aunt Ruth a happy birthday, the pure joy that my 30 seconds brought both to her and to me was incredible. And ever since that day, I've called Aunt Ruth, told her she passed, and Edith, every Friday. For my father, because of my father. And I decided at that moment that I'd follow my father's footsteps on every Friday, every birthday, every Chag. I'd call my siblings and their kids. So all those siblings, nieces and nephews, Yonatan, you know who you are. Pick up the darn phone. We have only had a few days of Shiva from my mother. Sitting with my siblings has allowed me to learn a few things, and I'd like to share one. I don't recall the exact time, and I think it was after my father brought Tzvi and Nadia to live with us from Russia. He brought 2 Jewish boys from Poland to live with us. Honestly, I didn't remember their names, and I completely forgot about it until this week. But I do remember when Chana and Yosef were talking about it, that one boy had long blonde hair and a ponytail and an earring. They lived with us for about a year, and I never heard anything after that. My sister, who's been going to Poland for years with the 12th grade boys from her school, had the privilege a few years ago with my brother Yosef. At some point on the trip visiting Warsaw, the Warsaw Cemetery in Poland, someone came over to my brother and gave him a big hug. Of course, Yosef had no idea who the stranger was or why he was even hugging him. My sister explained that the person was that boy who lived with us, with the long blonde hair and the earring. He was Choser B'tshuva. He said because of my father, he decided to go back to Poland, take care of the Jewish cemeteries, and currently serves as the Gabbai of the shul. There are many people that my parents have helped become from, but most of those have lived with us for extended periods of time. It is unbelievable that years later, because of one brief time, this boy lived with my family, led him to change his life so drastically. We really don't know the impact of things we say or do and the positive and beneficial outcome it can have even many years later. My mother, Ima, had a way of making a person do something without them even knowing it. Ima, you did it again. I now realize that coming here for your Levaya not only gave me the ability to give you the cover that you deserve, but also gave me the precious gift of these last 4 days with you, Abba. All of my siblings, my children, nieces and nephews love both my parents, and after witnessing firsthand, I need to give a special hakarat tov to my incredible brother-in-law Ashi, nephews Ophir, Shalev, Shmuel, נחשון, for the amazing care and respect that you gave to Abba, Saba. On Shabbat, I was sitting with Abba. Shmuel was there. And Shmuel, of course, I didn't get the Dvar Torah side from Saba. Other things maybe, but not the Dvar Torah side. Shmuel repeated the Dvar Torah that he said, Abba said, in the name of my Zaidi. And I vaguely remember it, but I hope we're quoting it correctly. And he said, the Mishnah in Avos says, Ezehu Ashir HaSomech B'chalko. Shmuel repeated to Abba as he was listening that Zaidi explained who is Ashir, who is rich. HaSomech B'chalko, Keshehu Mechalek La'acherim. One who gives to others, happily gives to others. He is the one who is really rich in this world. Abba, if that's the case, you and Ima are the wealthiest. Abba always loved this quote, and I think even Shmuel or נחשון, one of them said it over Shabbat. Smile. It is the second best thing you can do with your lips. So the next time you smile, do it with my father in mind. We will miss you, Abba, and on behalf of myself, Debbie, I know you're listening, I'm not making that mistake twice, Kayla, Ezra, and Noam, I ask for mechila for anything that we did. If we didn't give you the right kavod, we didn't call you enough, tell we loved you enough. P.S. Kayla said she has 2 grandparents are better than 1, so use your charming smile so Hashem sends the right guy for Kayla Bekarov. Abba, we love you. And as Chana was talking, I'm going to ad-lib here, which is really not my thing. But I remember one time, and I don't remember when, it was after Chana Me'layam, many years, we were living in Yulit, and we were walking home from Shul on Shabbat or Yom Tov, and Ima and Abba walking slightly ahead of us. They were holding hands. Chana says to me, aren't they cute? And I said, yeah, they kind of are. I know that my siblings, and I hope that I have the zchut to have that with each of our spouses. Abba, we know Ima's waiting there for you. You had to send her early to prepare the room for you. She's ready. You're together. Hold hands. Walk together. Watch over all of us in Shemayim.
Take two. Who would have thought we would be here again so soon? Words cannot express what I, my siblings, my family, my nieces, my nephews are feeling. Who could fathom the events of the past few days? Talk about a challenging week. It's beyond challenging. I lost my mother on a Thursday. My father died today. Barely had time to bask in the glow of my son's bar mitzvah with my family. For anyone who knew my parents, they never made anything easy, and I mean never. If I'm wrong, please correct me. And if I go on any tangents, this is because I'm a son of Saba. Tangents are just what we do. Why would it change now? I know my mother was hoping for a vacation, but as my father said many times, men plan, God laughs. In Yiddish, der Mensch tracht und Gott lacht. My father couldn't bear to be without my mother. She was his anchor, his rock, his partner in life. 57 years of marriage, an amazing feat, a really long time. How much they have accomplished and the living legacy they leave behind from children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. They gave all of us, myself, Chana, Yosef, Moshe, and Tzvi. I really wish you were here. The foundation and the building blocks to build our houses with Torah, love, compassion, and generosity. There are so many memories that come flooding back to me over the years. So many friends and siblings and friends passed through our house in Hewlett. I mean a lot, thousands just coming through. One of the stories I remember vividly is when one of my friends, and I'll say this, you guys might not like it, but everybody watching will like it. A group of friends of mine from Toronto came up for Shabbat in high school, and they stayed by me for Shabbat. My parents, of course, opened the house. We're talking about 10 boys, rowdy boys from Toronto. Just one condition, they said. Do not call me Snoot. Whatever you do not say Snoot. My parents hated the name, despised it, whatever. So, so I tell them before this, I tell them that before Shabbat, we sit down for Shabbat dinner. It's set for 20 people. My mother just cooks like crazy. Just unbelievable amount of food. No wine, but a lot of food. And one of my friends turns to my father and says, "So Rabbi Mandelbaum, how you doing?" You see, nobody gets it. It's unbelievable. No one here. Everybody who's watching, please laugh. Thank you, back there. Unreal. I thought it was hysterical. My friends were just like dying of laughter inside. And they were like, they couldn't let it out because that's just, it's not respectful. But Ima overhears and Ima says, and Ima was really the Abba whisperer. Whenever my father got angry, my mother used to go, "Abe, it's okay." Said a couple words, she calmed down. And it was an incredible Shabbat. That was really what our Shabbos house was. It was just unbelievable, and that's what we all have, from Chana to Yosef to Moshe, myself, and Tzvi. Our houses are open. And thank the spouses as well. Living next to my parents for the past 6 years was a privilege for me and mostly for my kids. And for Yafa, and they had the opportunity to see them every week. My parents saw them grow, and they always told me, told me 3 weeks ago, how impressed they were, how beautiful I was growing up in, and how just can't wait for Tzvi's bar mitzvah. And Shmuel, and Rabbi is a little individual now, and she's so cute. I sat next to my father in shul for the past few years, which was a big bracha to have that time with him every Shabbos. My kids always go to him on a Friday night, on a Shabbos morning, saying, "Saba, Shabbat Shalom," and Saba was going, "I love you. I love you." Something so simple. Sorry, it's a little emotional here. I'm sure you can understand though. most of all, one of the beautiful things I always saw, especially the last few years, was when my father wasn't really walking well, was Ayla walking home, Shabbat morning, speaking to him, having that special, even if it's 5, 10, sometimes 15, 20 minutes, but that time with him, getting to know her. It's an amazing feat, and that's because we lived next to them in Chana. You took the brunt of it. You spent it. They lived with you, and I can't even express how much a Karsato I have for that. And for Ashi, it's tremendous, because I couldn't do it. A few years ago, I had the idea to get my father to do a Parsha podcast, more because I knew he loved to learn Torah and speak. He really missed that. Ever since 1999, when he left Hewlett, he truly missed the opportunity to speak to people in a mass scale. And it's a shame, because he was phenomenal. I mean, I fell asleep most of the time, but he was phenomenal. The 2 minutes I got were just incredible. But he was a fantastic orator. I don't have it. Yosef got it. Chana has it. Moshe, you have a little. How he loved to learn, to talk, and give his sermon Divrei Torah. The second was he needed an outlet for him to learn and to take all his thoughts and share with everyone. I mean, everyone. It's just unlimited. I did this for 2.5 years to make sure that his Torah will not be lost and it will be with us forever. 126 Parsha podcasts, 10 minutes every week. His Torah will never die, ever. That was the purpose of it. Today's daf, this is my little short Divrei Torah. Thank you, Shmuel Hertzfeld. In Eruvin, in 64 Amud Bet, it teaches that if you have something and you want it to last, that you should buy a Torah scroll. I don't have that kind of cash at the moment. My father was a living Torah scroll. He embodied Torah. Everything in his life was Torah. He taught us Torah. Every second of his life, he was a walking Torah. In this week's Parsha, we read about Adam and Chava. The Talmud says that they were created with one body and two faces. And it's amazing how really everything happened around Simchas Torah, which is really one of the quintessential, if I have to using the word the right way, chagim of my parents. And our bodies were one body and two faces, united in all their holy projects. I remember when Svi Berman, really, you and Susan and the kids are really in our hearts, got married, and Abba spoke under the chuppah. He cried, and we asked him, how come you're crying at Svi's wedding? You didn't cry at mine, didn't cry at Moshe's, Yosef's, Chana. Well, why are you crying at Svi's all of a sudden? We're your children. We're your biological children. He said one happened naturally and one happened through extra work. And that was my father and mother. They took the time. They nurtured a boy from Moscow who was really Russian. Sri, you were so Russian. I mean, really Russian. And you became a Ben Torah. And you married someone beautiful and your kids. And you became part of our family. You're a brother, an uncle, and first cousins to all of us. Our parents taught us that we must always strive for the next madrega of serving Hashem. Our father's Torah will learn on forever in his podcast, and this is a plug. Remember, everybody right now, go to Apple Podcast. Click subscribe. Parsha, go with Rabbi Mandelbaum. It's about 5, maybe 10 minutes. Very few times it's 12 or 15 minutes. I try to cut him down a little. But most of all, it will live on forever in his children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And the people like Ari, who he touched, who are all the fruits of Iman Abba's extra work. Truly tremendous. And thank you. And I know it's been a tough couple of years with me. and I apologize for you. And let me tell you, one of the things I'll never forget in my life was sitting with the three of you and singing and ushering you out to Omaha.
I apologize again, but I'm going to talk in Hebrew. Talk slowly. אז שוב, אנחנו כאן, ואני עומדת פה. ואין מילים, ועייפים מלבכות, ועייפים בכלל. אבל חשוב לי כל כך להיפרד ולהספיד אותך, סבא. אז אני מנסה, ממש מנסה, לאגור כוח, כי זה הזכות שלי והחובה שלי, בתור נכדה בכורה, להספיד כל אחד מכם בנפרד, כל אחד עם המילים המדויקות לו. מי סבא, היית איש יקר, איש תורה, איש חסד, איש של אנשים, people person, של קירוב לבבות, מתוך אהבה אמיתית לזולת. היית מוצא חבר בכל מקום. תמיד אמרת, that a smile is the second best thing you can do with your lips. ואז הוא היה שואל, you know what the first is? בהחלט היה לך חיוך שהאיר את החדר וכבש לבבות. אף פעם לא מזיק לשאול מישהו איך קוראים לו ומה שלמה. It never hurts to be kind. מאז שאני ילדה קטנה, אנחנו שרים את השיר, סליחה תודה בבקשה, 3 מילים טובות. סליחה תודה בבקשה, 3 מילים יפות. כשאני יוצאת עם חברות למסעדה, תמיד שואלת את המלצר איך קוראים לו. ענה הוא סבא. כמו שאמרתי קודם, סבא היה איש תורה שהטמיע בכולנו, רב קהילה שנים רבות. הייתה לו הסתכלות מיוחדת על הלימוד שלו. ידע לתת נקודת מבט מיוחד. אני פחות יכולה לפתוח סוגיות, אבל אחד הדברים שהיו מאוד חשובים לסבא, לא פחות, היה קידוש השם על ידי שמירה וכבוד עצמי. האמונה שאיך שאנחנו מציגים את עצמנו כלפי חוץ, לא פחות חשוב מהבפנים. אחד הדברים שהייתי הכי מצפה להם, זה היה המחמאות שהוא היה נותן לי. הילד. Look beautiful. כל שבת. הוא תמיד אמר שאין סיבה שאי אפשר להתלבש באופן צנוע, וגם יפה. השם לא רצה שנלבש שמטס. סבא היה אדם מלא תשוקה, passion, לכל דבר שהוא עשה, גם שהיה מתעצבן. גדלתי עם המחשבה שיש לסבא שלי פרה בבטן, כי היו אומרים לי, Saba's having a cow. Just wait, Saba's having a cow. היה לו גאווה גדולה מזה שגרנו 4 דורות בבית, ורבה נחת מהכותרת של סופר סבא. סבא יקר, מי סבא, תודה על הזכות להיות הנכדה הראשונה שלך. אהבת את כל הנכדים שלך ודאגת שנדע את זה תמיד. תמיד היה אומר, You're my favorite איילת ריבה. And Saba, you're my favorite Saba Avraham. אני רוצה להודות לך על כל מה שהיית ועשית שאין סופי. כך נתת לנו את הזכות להיפרד ממך. ובאיזשהו מקום, אולי תיקון קטן, מזה שלא הספקנו להיפרד כמו שצריך מסבתא. אנחנו יכולים רק לתאר את הכאב העצום שהיה לך אחרי הבשורה שסבתא נפטרה. מבינים שעשית ונלחמת כמה שיכולת. לא כועסים, מודים שלא סבלת הרבה זמן. מנסים לשחרר. לך, תהיה עם סבתא, שם מקומך. תשמור עלינו מלמעלה. תשלחו לנו כוחות להמשיך את דרככם. ואולי תצליח לשכנע מישהו שם למעלה שיגיע הזמן לחזור לחיים. לבקש מחילה ותחנונים עלינו, על עם ישראל ועל העולם. סבא, אני מבקשת סליחה ומחילה על הפעמים שלא היה לי סבלנות או כוח. שוב מודה להורים שלי, לבעלי ולשלב, שבימים האחרונים כולם, על הטיפול המסור כל השנים האלה. תנוח בשלום, סבא יקר. זוכרים ואוהבים אותך תמיד.
אמרתי לסבא שלי ביום שני כשראיתי אותו אחרי שיצאתי מבידוד. ראיתי אותו שבר כלי, אמרתי לו סבא, סיימתי את השיחה שלי ככה, אמרתי לו סבא, שמעתי פעם כשאומרים אין לי כוח, אולי הם מחליפים את האלף בתף, יכול להועיל. תן לנו כוח. Sab and Savta, I think I'm speaking on behalf of everybody that we're drained out of tears. An era has passed. My grandparents will only be stories from now on. בשעות האחרונות, מכל מיני אנשים שונים, אני מקבל את אותו SMS. כולם אומרים את המילים. אין לנו מילים. זה מזכיר לי שסבא שלי, במקרה של מוות וצער, היה ניגש אליי ואומר לי, אתה יודע מה אמורים לעשות שמישהו נפטר? אמורים לשתוק. להיות בדממה. כמו אהרון הכהן. וידום אהרון. לא ברעש, לא באש, כי אם בכל דממה דקה. אז לכאורה כל מה שעליי לעשות זה לעמוד כאן ולשתוק, להרגיש את החוסר של סבא. But on the other hand, anyone who knew my Saba knows he was a talker. He liked to talk a lot. He liked to schmooze a lot. He loved the interactions with people. So Saba, with your permission, I would like to say a few words. And in the way of my Saba, it might be a bit longer than usual. Saba, during the last few days, I've told you endless times that I love you. And every time, you said it back to me, struggling to say the words. The crack in my heart deepened, leaving an empty space, a halal panui, with no Saba there. It feels so empty just because it was so full before him. endless experiences, laughs, songs, and a whole lot of Torah. As a kid, my Saba would take us to baseball games, the movies, Broadway, and we felt that being at Saba and Savta's house was like our happy place. As נחשון and I got older, our relationship, Saba, turned into a chavruta. My Saba used to come to my yeshiva in Tel Aviv. He used to love getting on the train, going into the realms of Torah together. One time we were studying and someone else pointed out the Midrash in Masechet Kiddushin that states, Kol ha-melamed ben bnot Torah kilu kibla mechorev. Saba used to go over that quote again and again, never letting me forget it. And every time you said it, you had a glimpse of reminisce and nachat in your eyes. And that made me happy. My Saba loved the way someone would walk by while we're studying. He would say, he's my chavruta. And when I told him on Shabbat, I said, but Saba, you're my chavruta. Yoni was there. And my Saba looked at me with tears in his eyes and he said, chavruta umituta. I love studying with you, Saba, and I love giving you the joy. I loved giving you joy from it. I loved it and I loved giving you joy from it. And I loved laughing one second. I loved laughing with you about Yiddish words that just can't be translated. I loved watching you speak and dive completely into what you were saying with passion and charisma. I love the way we waited to eat on Shabbat until Saba came home from shul because he was schmoozing with everyone. Everybody loved you, Saba. Everybody. Haita ben Adam Cham. You were a warm person. Saba, you were like the sun, lighting up the world with wisdom, caring, and laughter. You loved quoting again and again a scene from the movie Evan Almighty. You used to say, one second, I'm sorry. You used to say, for sure, a Jew thought of this scene. Engraved in the Ark of Noah were the letters A-R-K, an act of random kindness. That is the way to save the world from drowning. Hundreds and thousands of acts of random kindness. That was my Saba and Savta. Saba, you're one of my biggest fans. You gave me so many poker chips to lift my spirit. You made me feel out of the ordinary. One time I was doubting myself. I came over to Saba not long ago. I came over to you and I asked you, from your life experience, how can one feel better when he's down? And I listened. And at the end of the conversation, I told you the answer. I said, I know how. The way to feel better is by going to your Saba and speaking to him about it. You laughed. Saba, you are out of the ordinary. You and Savta both. You touched too many people in your lifetime not to be out of the ordinary. Saba, you lived a gewaldic life. Filled with the ingredients that make life a meaningful masterpiece. אמא ואבא, אין לי מילים. כל כך הרבה אהבה ודאגה. אבא, הדאגה שלך לסבא בשבועות האחרונים ובשנים האחרונות. צדיק של מעשים. אמא, כיבוד הורים שלך, אין לי מילים. To you, אמא, and to all my uncles. Everyone can see that you all made Saba and Safta really proud. Saba, you love to sing all together. We sang to you for the last few days a lot. One of your favorite songs has been stuck in my head, and every time it comes up, it makes me tear inside. Don't sing along, I guess you're not supposed to sing, but I'm going to sing a bit. Kol barama nishma, Kol barama nishma, Rachel mevaka al baneha. Saba, I'm missing you so much already. And it's going to be really hard for me to go downstairs and not to be able to see you and Safta anymore. You left an impression on my life that will go on for generations. Saba, you taught us so much through speech and through life. And we all will continue your wonderful Torah. A Torah that was filled with a liv shomer, with passion and with compassion. Give Savta a big hug and kiss for me, and show her my smile filled with tears. You're a great man, Saba. You're my chavruta. Tzadikim b'mitatam korim chaim. You and Savta both will continue to live in the hearts of so many people you've touched. Tanuach b'shalom al mishkavcha. Tanuach b'shalom al mishkavcha.
Give me a minute. Thanks. When thinking of what to say, I thought of a hesped I once read that Rav Moshe Lichtenstein gave for his grandfather, Rav Soloveitchik. He wrote more eloquently than I ever could, so I'd like to quote the opening paragraph of his hesped, since it so accurately describes my feelings today. How can a grandson eulogize his grandfather? How dare he assume such a task? Will not fear and awe overtake him? Would it not be preferable to wrap himself in the silence of sorrow and the solace of tears? Can he really hope to accurately portray the departed persona or faithfully describe his personality? The eulogy must be a full and accurate description of the deceased, his personality and acts, the wonderful and unique within him. But the grandson could observe the great creative powers of a beloved grandfather only through the blurry vision of childhood, the veil of youth cast upon his eyes throughout the period of his elder's zenith. Yet, when the grandson matured and ripened, ready to receive his grandfather's bounty, it was too late. for by then the elderly figure had already begun to withdraw, slowly receding from a younger generation, though a glimpse of the towering stature was still discernible. And although retrospection is a form of vision, can it possibly compare to direct contact with the power and intensity of fully active years? In spite of all this, how can one not lament and eulogize a grandfather? Both natural human feeling and halachic obligations regarding human dignity require me to set forth upon this endeavor. And though I may not be able to fulfill the task of faithfully portraying his image, the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot has already taught us that a person may not shy away from his charge, even though it is unexpected of him to complete it. Not that there is ever a fitting time for someone to pass away, but if there was, the week of Shabbat Bereshit would be at the top of the list for Saba. The larger Jewish community has just completed its annual cycle of reading Am Yisrael's journey from creation through redemption, and is about to embark upon another year-long journey starting this week. This feels oddly similar to the situation in our family right now. We spent the last several decades predating my birth guided by Saba and Savta, taking my dad and siblings literally across the world to where we are today. 3 out of 4 of his children in Israel, and the 4th with 2 children spending their years learning here now. And just as we are starting Bereshit all over again may seem daunting, so too does facing a reality without the presence of Saba and Savta. But alas, here we are. We are forced to move forward without them. But how? How do we move forward? When I was around 10 or so, my Saba took me, נחשון, and Shmuel to see the first Spider-Man movie. It was the first superhero movie I'd ever seen, and naturally, I loved it. After the movie, me, נחשון, and Shmuel were talking about the fight scenes and the cool graphics, but Saba left that movie with one of the most iconic lines in any movie. With great power comes great responsibility. Saba was in heaven. He had found another line to add to his repertoire of inspirational quotes. And this one resonated with him. Of course, on a personal level, I learned quickly that at all future family smachot, I needed to stay alert during his long speeches, because at one point or another, he would always bring up this quote, search me out in the crowd, and say, Yonatan, do you remember? I said, yes, Saba, I remember. But this is one way we need to move on as a family. And this is one way that we will move on, recognizing the responsibility we have to continue the lasting legacy of Saba and Savta. But Saba didn't only take me to movies, he also taught me the first Hebrew song that I ever learned that was referenced today. Slicha toda bevakasha shalosh milim yafot. Slicha toda bevakasha shalosh milim kalot. And anyone who knew my Saba knows that he epitomized that song. I challenge you to find a kinder soul, someone who always acted with the utmost kindness to others and made it seem easy, even when it wasn't. So as we attempt to move forward, let's all remember to be kind to one another, to care for one another, and most importantly, to always use those 3 simple words. There are too many memories to share, too many to recollect. I'll always remember my first game at Yankee Stadium despite hating the Yankees. I'll always remember our trip to Disney World when I was little, and I'll always remember his absolutely infectious laugh. But most of all, I'll remember his passion for Torah. Saba, after every time we learned together, he would always tell me that learning with your grandchild was the biggest zchut of your life. But no, Saba, it was my biggest zchut to get to learn with you. And I only ask mechila from you that we didn't do it more often.
אף פעם לא הספדתי אף אחד, אז אני לא כל כך יודע איך עושים את זה. בכל השעה האחרונה רק עולים לי עוד מחשבות. רגע, למה את זה לא אמרתי על סבא? וגם את זה. יש כל כך הרבה דברים שלא אמרתי על זה, לא כתבתי על סבא, מה כבר כתבתי? אבל בסדר, מה שכתבתי זה מה שכתבתי, מה שאני אגיד. וסבא, שתדע, בסוף הזיכרונות שלי ואיתך הולכים איתי פה בלב. חשבתי לעצמי מה אני רוצה לעשות בהספד. אם יש פה מישהו שכאילו לא הכיר את סבא, אני אספר לכם על סבא שלי. And by the way, Yonatan, for his 70th birthday, I wasn't so old, but I was like maybe I don't know, 14. I just drew him like a big like paper that said, with great power comes great responsibility, in blue and red, and then I sent it to him, to America, somehow, I don't remember, probably through my Abba. סבאלה, איך אומרים שלום בפעם האחרונה? האמת שכל פעם שראיתי אותך ואת סבתא בשנים האחרונות, הקפדתי לומר שלום עם חיבוק לפני שעזבתי. כי מי יודע מה ילד יום. ובכל זאת המוות תמיד קורה בחטף כנראה, כשיש עוד הרבה דברים לומר ולשמוע. סבא, we had such a strong connection. We were ממש כל המלמד בין בנות תורה כאילו קיבלה מסיני, לא מחורב על פי מה שאני בדקתי. כמו שהיית מצטט. אני זוכר ויכוחים איתך כבר מגיל צעיר, זוכר שהתווכחתי איתך על האם יש משמעות לפרטים קטנים, הקדוש ברוך הוא מחפש אותם או לא מחפש אותם. תמיד עמדת על דעתך, וככל שגדלתי, מצאנו את עצמנו דנים, לומדים ומשוחחים ביחד על התורה ועל החיים. כשהייתי חוזר מהצבא, תמיד ירדתי עם המדים לומר לכם שלום, לך ולסבתא. איך היית גאה, היית כל כך מתלהב לראות אותי ככה. ותמיד, אבל תמיד, הייתי נגרר לאיזה חידוש שלך, או לאיזה סוגיה שהיית חייב לשתף אותי, ואז אמא הייתה צריכה לבוא לקרוא לי אחרי 20 דקות, חצי שעה, כדי להוציא אותי משם. פעם אפילו הבאת גמרא לבח גולני, ולמדנו ביום שישי, כמה שעות לפני שבת. סבא, you were the warmest person I know, or I knew. הבן אדם הכי חם שאני מכיר. אני זוכר שבזכותך התחלתי לומר שלום לאנשים ברחוב. היית מקפיד לומר שלום לכל אדם. ופעם, כשהלכנו ביישוב, אמרת שלום לפועל ערבי. לימדת אותי מה זו אהבת כל אדם באשר הוא. היית כל כך מצחיק עם האהבה הזאת. בבית כנסת הרימון, איפה שהיית מתפלל בשנים האחרונות, יכולנו לראות אותך כמה פעמים באמצע התפילה. לומר שכוייך לבחור הבר מצווה וההורים שלו, לשאול בשלום אנשים שלא ראית, ופשוט להעלות למישהו חיוך. כל כך אהבת להעלות לאנשים חיוכים על הפנים. הייתי מצטט עכשיו אמרה שהיית אומר, אבל בזמן שאני כותב שורות אלו, אני בטוח שמישהו כבר ציטט אותם לפניי. לימדת אותי מה זה שם של מישהו, כמה זה משמעותי, להכיר בבן אדם, בשם שלו, לתת לו מקום. סבא, אין עליך, באמת. כל החברים שלי מאז גיל צעיר, שראו אותך מתלהב במשחקי הכדורסל שלי ושל שמואל וצועק, דיפנס, דיפנס, כאילו אין דבר חשוב יותר בעולם, הם תמיד היו אומרים לי, וואו, איזה בן אדם חם, סבא שלכם. סבא, אני אתגעגע לקול שלך. באמת. סבא, אני חייב להזכיר את הקשר שלך ושל סבתא עם אשתי איילת. איך שאהבת אותה, כאילו הנכדה שלך מימים ימימה. ואתה בטח צועק לי מלמעלה, לא כאילו, באמת. היא תמיד אמרה לי שהיא מרגישה שאתה ממש סבא בשבילה. מחבק, מחזק, מחמיא, ופשוט נותן המון אהבה. סבא, היית מקור בלתי נדלה של חוכמה ומחשבה. הייתה בך אהבת תורה אמיתית, כזו שיוקדת מבפנים ולא פוסקת אף פעם. אולי זה בגלל שחזרת בתשובה, והיית חוזר בתשובה כל החיים שלך. בשנים האחרונות, כשמצבך לא היה במיטבו, והתחלת לשכוח דברים, או לחזור עליהם. היה מדהים, וגם מצחיק לפעמים, לשמוע אותך חוזר על אותם דברי תורה פעם אחר פעם. אבל אני דווקא חשבתי לעצמי, שבן אדם אולי מתחיל לשכוח דברים שוליים כשהוא מזדקן. אבל דווקא העובדה שאלו הדברים שחזרת עליהם פעם אחר פעם, הבהירה כל כך שזה היה האוויר לנשימה שלך, הדם שזרם בלב שלך, המקור שלך. סבא, בקיצור, עליך נאמר, האמת והשלום אהבו. האמת שרדפת בכל עניין ועניין, והשלום שהרעפת על אין ספור אנשים. וסבא, השילוב המיוחד הזה, שגרם לכל כך הרבה אנשים להתאהב בך כבר מהרגע הראשון שהכירו אותך, זה מה שעשה אותך סבא, לבן אדם כל כך מיוחד. ודבר אחרון סבא, השבועות האחרונים לא היו פשוטים עבורך, ותודה לכל המלאכים והצדיקים שטיפלו בך, אתם יודעים מי אתם. נתקלתי בימים האחרונים בגמרא מצמררת במסכת ברכות, דף ה' עמוד א'. אם רואה אדם שאיסורים באים עליו, יפשפש במעשיו. פשפש ולא מצא, יתלה בביטול תורה. ואם תלה ולא מצא, בידוע שאיסורים של אהבה הם, שנאמר, כי את אשר יאהב השם יוכיח. סבא, in your case, I have no doubt, בידוע שאיסורים של אהבה הם היו. Saba, there are still thousands of words to say, and too much pain to say them all. אז לעכשיו סבא, rest on your bed, תנוח על משכבך בשלום, ותהיה מליץ יושר עבורנו. I'll miss you so much, Saba, and I love you and Safta to pieces. Yours, Shoni.
This speech is on behalf of Kayla, Noam, my mom, and myself. A lot of it's going to be repetition because all of you guys have said what any of us would say, but again, it's crazy that we're all here again, not even after a week. I know most of us are still in shock, but if any of us knew Saba, and I know we all did, Saba could not be without Safta. It gives me a great sense of peace knowing that one wasn't without the other for too long. When you think about it, they were the ultimate power couple. Both of them very knowledgeable about Torah and just everyday things, and are equally passionate about helping others and about the importance of family. We will always remember the times we shared with Saba and Safta, from the times they came to our house for Shabbosim, Chagim, birthday parties, or from when they attended our Chumash and Siddur place. One of the best memories of Saba is from the times we went to the Yankee games together. If Saba wasn't learning Gemara or reading a Sefer, he was watching sports. To say that Saba was an enthusiastic about sports, an enthusiastic sports fan, would be putting it mildly. Watching sports games and movies weren't exactly Saba's quiet times. His hoots and hollers definitely drew some attention from the other Yankee fans sitting in our section, and made the experience all the more memorable. Saba loved sports and he loved learning, but what both Saba and Safta loved most was their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. All of us have a piece of them in us and always will. They left this world having the opportunity to know 17 grandchildren and I believe 10 or 9 great-grandchildren. 10. Meretz Hashem, the number will continue to grow, and they will all be privileged to have the opportunity to continue the legacy of the legendary house that Mandelbaum built. Saba, on behalf of myself, Kayla, Noam, Mommy, and Abba, I'd like to ask for Mechila for anything we did. I love you very much, and I hope that you and Savta are happy now together.
These past couple of days have been extremely difficult. Hearing that my Savta wasn't going to make it and me not being able to say goodbye in person was just so heartbreaking. She was such an amazing person and she didn't deserve the pain she had. Friday morning was her funeral. I spoke. I can't describe how it felt or what I'm feeling right now. My Savta always had the biggest smile on her face. She always made people laugh. She held this family together, and without her, we're lost. After she had passed, a few hours later, we decided to tell my Saba. I don't think he fully understood that his wife isn't here with him anymore, but I think he knew that she wasn't coming back. Shabbos came around. It was the Shabbos of my brother's bar mitzvah. Even though it was a difficult time, my dad tried his best to make it the best bar mitzvah that my brother can have during these times. The Shabbos went like this. Friday night, we had a lovely davening. Then we ate dinner with a few of my brother's friends, a close family friend, and a few family members. I personally tried my best to be happy and celebrate my brother's bar mitzvah, but as much as I tried, there was a part of me that just couldn't stop thinking about my Savta. Shabbos day, we had another nice davening, then at Kapos, then my brother leaned beautifully. From there on, that's where it went downhill. My Saba was having a hard time breathing, and he was getting worse and worse by the minute. After lunch, my dad and uncle went to my aunt's house, which is a block or two away from my house. The house was full of doctors coming in and out to check on him and giving the family updates. A few after my father went to see my Saba, he came back and said, "Kids, Saba isn't doing well. He took a turn for the worst. I want you all to go now and say your goodbyes and tell Saba how much you love him." So that's what I did. I went with my mom and dad to see my Saba. I told him how much he meant to me and how much I loved him. That was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Watching my Saba in pain and knowing that as much as I want to help and as much as I did, it wouldn't fix the situation he was in. I was really close with my grandparents. Me and my Savta had a special bond. Every week I used to go visit my grandparents, and while my grandfather was learning Torah, my Savta and I used to talk for hours about everything and anything. She always used to tell me these stories about her childhood. When my Saba wasn't learning Torah, I tried my best to be with him as much as I could. About 4 years ago, my brother and I used to go every Friday and learn with my Saba. After a year or two, we stopped because it got too complicated with our schedules, but we still went to go visit him every week. A few years ago, I started walking my Saba home from shul every Friday night. It became sort of like a tradition. Some of you may think, what's so special about a walk home from shul? Well, let me tell you. These past few years, my Saba and I have gotten extremely close. On our walks home, we spoke about our weeks or how he was feeling. It was the highlight of my week. Every day, I'd be so excited because the days got closer and closer until I got to walk my Saba home. My brother and I got lucky when it came to our speeches for our bar mitzvah. My Saba loved writing speeches, and he was more than happy to learn with us and help us with our speeches. When my bat mitzvah came around, I decided I wanted to learn Megillat Rut, and of course I asked my Saba to learn with me, and he said yes. So for a few weeks before my bat mitzvah, we learned mostly every day for 3 to 4 hours. My bat mitzvah came around, and I knew my speech by heart, and I had my Saba right by my side. He always told me, when you speak, just relax and take your time. People are here to listen, not to rush. I remember a few weeks ago I saw my Savta. Little did I know that would be the last time I'd ever hug her or see her in person. My brother laid for my grandparents, and he did an amazing job. I think we could all agree when I say my Savta and Saba would be so proud and are looking down on us with the biggest smiles. When I was younger, whenever my grandparents used to come to my house in America and stay by us, or whenever we went to their house in Queens, my Saba used to sing me the song, I love you, you love me, we're a happy family with a great big hug and a kiss from each of you. Won't you say you love me too? And I sang it with him, and I still sing it all the time. I still can't believe this is happening to me, to my family. My grandparents created such a beautiful family together, and will forever cherish their memories. Saba and Safta, I love you both so, so much, and I miss you dearly.
I had a whole speech prepared, but literally everybody stole everything from my speech. Except for one thing, Ari, thank you, we coordinated. But... So I'm not going to read from the pieces of paper. I'm going to talk from the heart. I hope all of us in the room know Saba and Safta, but all of you outside or listening, I hope you got a real sense for who Saba was. In this week's Parsha was one of his two favorite Divrei Torah. One was from the Netziv, the Emek Davar. And the Pticha of the Emek Davar is, Sefer Bereshis is called Sefer Yashar. Yashar. And the Netziv asked the question, why is it called Sefer Yasharim? Bilam refers to Am Yisrael as Yasharim, and the Nevi'im call it Sefer HaYashar. And he loved, right, all this pticha of the Netziv. Because the answer the Netziv gave was so profound. It had a lasting impact on him and all of us. And the Netziv said, because the lesson of the Avot of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov is not that they were tzaddikim, it's not that they were chachamim, it's not that they listened to Kadosh Baruch Hu, it's that they valued a human being for being a human being. A menschlichkeit was the most important thing before anything else. Whether it's an Arab worker, whether it's a toll booth operator, whether it's someone on the street, someone we knew, one of our friends, it didn't make a difference to Saba. To Saba, an Adam Yashar was Avram Avinu, who talked to people who were idol worshippers. He didn't scorn them. He didn't protest against them. He embraced them. He may have disagreed, but he embraced them. He talked to them. My father used to say, a saying that no one mentioned today, and that the problem with the world we live in today is that the passionate has been stolen by the extremes. And the moderates are moderately passionate, when what they need to be is passionately moderate. Being moderate and being passionate was something that Saba was all about. People on the extreme will always, right, scream loud. And unless the people in the middle who are moderate scream louder, the world won't change. And Saba was one of those people. That is what an Adam Yashar is. How much better would the world be if everybody, after hearing all these speeches, went out and said hello to somebody? I remember as a little boy, 8 years old, we were coming back from my grandparents' house in Queens to Muncie. I think it's over the Tappan Zee Bridge. And my father rolled down the window to the toll booth operator and said, "Hi, how are you?" And the toll booth operator lit up. Afterwards, on the way back, said to Saba, why did you do that? Who cares? It's a toll booth operator. He said, and he told this to me, I remember it like yesterday. He said, for me, it took 2 seconds to say, "Hi, how are you?" Kavod obrios. This is a person who's doing his job in the toll booth. It must be really boring every day to be there. Take 2 minutes, 2 seconds, and say, "Hi, how are you?" Think about what it does to him. It's a lesson, hopefully we pass down to our kids and the kids and generations. That stuck with me. That is an Adam Yashar. He was, and Eli mentioned this word, but I have to mention it again, he was the quintessential Adam Yashar, a paradigmatic example of what it means to be somebody who really put others above himself. My father did not have the same sense of humor as my mother, but he had a laugh like you wouldn't believe, and he was my mother's biggest fan. As Eli said, tangents are something we do. So a story my mother told me, they once went to a Jackie Mason show on Broadway. And my father was laughing so loudly, Jackie Mason stopped the show and said, "Who is this guy laughing at all my jokes?" And he invited him to come backstage to meet Jackie Mason because he had to meet this person who was laughing at all his jokes. That was what Saba and Savta were together. Savta told the jokes, Abba laughed at the jokes, but he loved her humor. And they were really a couple who all the good things we mentioned at my mother's Levaya a few days ago, all the great things were mentioned here today, that's what my parents were. They were Anshe Yesharim. They were honest, straightforward people. They didn't seek the glory. I think they were Chachamim for sure, Tzadikim also, but first and foremost, they cared about individuals. It started with the family, but extended to everybody. As we saw here from Ari Cutler, who's one of those people, to Tzvi and Susan, to many, many people. Joy and Mark, Eliezer and Gitti, I can go on, and Jerry and Cecile, literally we can go on and on and on, the people who were there. The second of this week's Parsha, favorite, Dvar Torah, Zeh Katon Gadol Yihiyeh. He said it every bris, including the one that I was late to, which was my son's bris. Let me tell you, if my father can get up now and give me the same look, it was the death stare that he gave us, because we were late to my son's bris. But Zeh Katon Gadol Yihiyeh reflects, I believe, the meser of what the Netziv meant and of what my parents tried to imbue on us and to our grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And that message is, what is Zeh Katon Gadol Yihiyeh? You have to look at the first time, Rav Soloveitchik said, when the word is used in the Torah. So this week's Parsha, HaMa'or HaKaton VaGadol, the moon and the stars. And the famous Medrash, the moon complained, no, why aren't we equal sizes? We should get equal thing. And Hashem said, it's okay, you'll be the smaller one, the sun will be the bigger one, it'll reflect off you. And he used to say, Zeh Katon Gadol Yihiyeh. You start off life as a katon, as the moon. The moon only gets its light as a reflection from the sun. It has to soak in the sun rays in order to then give light out in the night sky, like tonight. By itself, it has no light. It can only reflect light. When you're growing up, what do? You absorb the light and the teachings of your parents, of your grandparents. That's what you do. HaGadol Yihiyeh. When finally you become a gadol, now you can become your own son and therefore reflect your light onto other people. And all the years that my parents were here, we didn't have to be that light. We could have been the moon for a long, long time because my parents were here. They were the sun. They were a team, but they were the sun for all of us. But now it's up to us. Now's the time. Zeh Katon Gadol Yihiyeh. Chana, Moshe, Eli, and I, our spouses, we may be a little older now than a Katon and a Gadol, but we're still their Katon. And now it's our turn to be Gadol. I can't think of anything that my parents would want more. And for us to continue their legacies, I said at my mother's funeral only a few days ago, the morashah they gave us, that, if I can encapsulate those two things, Adam Yashar and Zeh Katon Gadol Yihiyeh, that encapsulates my parents, my father. I'd once again like to thank my sister Chana and Ashi. They can never thank them more. Taking care of my parents in very difficult circumstances, and a special mention to Shalev and Ophir, all of Chana's family, for taking care of them, especially the last few weeks. It's not been easy. In the penultimate paragraph, I'd like to say, my father had to use it, right? He grew up from a small boy born in Brazil, for those of you who didn't know. They escaped Germany in 1935. He moved at 11 years old to the Bronx, got attracted to Rabbi Herschel Schachter in the Mashalo Parkway, graduated Yeshiva University, got smicha from the Rav, became a chaplain in the U.S. Army, where my sister and I were born in France. He became a pulpit rabbi in many congregations, and he loved being a rabbi. He just loved it. When he wasn't a rabbi, you can tell, he just wasn't himself. Yesterday is history, tomorrow is mystery. Today is a gift from Hashem, which is why it's called a present. Let all of us make the most out of today by being yashar, by being passionately moderate to make this world a better place, to let the light of my parents shine upon others, our family and extended family. In the end, we were all singing by his side, Moshe, Chana, Eli, myself, just a few hours ago. One of the people mentioned Zakeni, I think my sister, I don't remember who. We were singing many songs by his side. I'm sure he heard us in his heart. As he passed away and rejoined my mother, Abba, we love you. We'll miss you. Thank you for all that you taught us. We'll try to live up to what you and Ima taught us and reflect your ma'or onto the rest of the world.
פרק ט"ז בתהילים. מכתום לדוד שומרני אין כי חוסי סיבוך, אומרת לה אדוני אדוני אותו תויבוסי בלו לכו, לקדושים אשר בו. Ravolim nofruli banim imach nachlas shofroloi. Ravor el chesad inoi asher yotzon yafri loi sisruni chilioisoi. Shivisi adoinoi lenegdi somitkim imini balemoi. Lochein esomach libi veogel kvoidea besorish keno betach. כי לא יישא זוהי ונפשי לשאוי לא יסיתם חסידכו לירויס שוחס תוידי איני אוי רח חיים זוי בסמוכוס אצפונכו נימויס בימינכו נצח Now is Dash Rabbi, Yamad Rabbi Israel, Yamad Rabbi, Yamad Israel, Avod Makriv Ruamen. He's Bifaleh, Jewish Torah, he's Bar, he's Mom, he's Nasei, he's Har, he's Alev, he's Alash, he's Shad, Richu, Le'elam, he's Ofer Masav, he's Shvastad, he's Masav, Mech Masav, יש אמר עליו משמעי, וחיים טוב מלאנו, וחיישב ומלאנו, וזה שלום ומלאנו, ויעשה שלום מלאנו, ושלום ומלאנו. לפי מנהג ירושלים, כל יוצאי חלציו, הבנים, הבת, נכדים או נכדות, לא ילכו אחר המיטה. לכן קודם, שאתם לא סופרים את המיטה. הפח נשבור ואנחנו נמלוכנו. והנה עמדנו אלוהינו אלוהינו מעשינו. מה זה תקיים? לא יסירו מפחד, לא ימחצו יומו. רשועים תראה, יעתו אדוני מחסי עליון שמתו מעינךו. לא יישאוני לכו ונגע לא יקרב באוהלךו. אם הלוכו ויצא ולוך לשמורכו בכל דרכךו. על כפיים יסורכו פן תיגוי בו אבן רגלךו. על שחל ופסן תדרוך תרמוי ספיר וסנין. כי חושק ואפלתי ועסקבהו כי עוד אשמי. כי כהן דיבנהו עמו אנוכי בצורח ארצהו ואכבדהו. אוי רך יומי משביעהו והריהו בישועתי. עקביו בן מעלה לא ינגר טובו לידי אביבו. המעין בו סולנתו ילך ולפני מיעתו הוסיף ליתן דין וחשבון. מעין בו סולנתו ילך למקום אפור עמו וסוילהו. ולפני מיעתו הוסיף ליתן דין וחשבון. לפני מלך מלכי המלוכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. והוא רחום יכפר עוון ולא ישחיס, וירבו להושיב הפרי ולא יועיר כל החמוסוי. חלום קדיש.
סקדל ויסקדיש שמי רבה. ויעמד יברח ירוסי וימליך מלכוסי בחייכון ומכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל. והגלו בזמן קריב ימרו אמן.
אמן יהי שמי רבו
מבורך לעולם ועומד יום היום. יסברך וישתבח ויספור ויסרמן ויסנשא ויסדר ויסעלה ויסהלל שמי קודשא בריחו לעילא מן כל ברכסה ושירסה ותשבחסה ונחמסה דם ירן ביומה וימרו אמן.
אמן.
שלום רב מן שמיים וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו אמן.
אמן.
עשה שלום מרחמיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו אמן.
אמן.
יושב בסייסר עליון בצל שדי זינון. אוי מר לאדוני מחסיר מצודות אלוהי יפתח בוי. כי הוא יעשי לך מפח יקוש מדבר אבוי. בברוסו יודך לא כשחת כנופו תשתן כנו בסויסרו אמיתוי. לא יסירו מפחד לא מחייתו יוימום. ידבר באויפל יהלוך מכתב ירשוד צהריים. יפועל מצדך אלף ורבבה מימינך. אילך לא יגוש רק בעינך סביט. ושילומס רשעים תראה. יעשו אדינוי מחסי עליון, שמתו מעוינךו. לא יישאו נילך רעו ונגע לא יקרב באוהלךו. כי מלוכו ויצא ולוך לשמורכו בכל דרכךו. על כפיים יישאו חופן תיגוי בו אבן רגלךו. על בופס ותיגוי.
עכשיו להתחק רגע. תעצור שנייה, תעצור. תן לי להתחקר. איפה הוא עלה?
אין להיכנס.
כך?
עקביו בן מעלל לא הימר, הסתכל בשלישות דבורים ועינתו בו לידי אבירו.
נזהר יש פה אבן.
ולפני מיעתו עושים לי דין וחשבון. מאין בוסו מטיפו כרוכו. ולאן אתה ילך למקום אפור רימו וסוילאו. ולפני מיעתו עושים לי דין וחשבון. לפני מלך מלכי המלוכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. והוא רחום יכפר עוון ולא ישחיס. והרבו להושיב הפועל ולא יועיר כל החמסועים. הבנים שיאמרו קדיש איפה שהם עומדים.
קדיש, כן, כן.
יקדש שמי רבי ויעמד לברך ירצה ולכלך וחייכם יברכם וחי לכל בית ישראל עלה בזמן קריב יראו אמן יש שמי רבי מבורך עולם אמן ומיה יתברך וישבח וישבח ונאם ונשא וידע וגלל וגלל שמי דקדשה בריחו לרם וכל בחצה ושירתה תשבחצה ונחמצה אמן בימיו יראו אמן יש תמר רבם נשמע חיים טובים עלינו וכיסר ורונן עושה שלום רב ויעשה שלום עלינו ישראל ורונן
אברהם דוד בן שמואל אמא לוקו ויצא ולוק לשמור בכל דרכו. עוד רגע.
פה מאחוריך. הוא רחום יכפר ובוין אלא ישחיז ובולו שיפוי ולא יקוח המסוי. הוא רחום יכפר ובוין אלא ישחיז.
הבנים והנכדים יכולים לבוא להתקרב. והוא רחום יכפר ובוין ולא ישחיז. וירבו להושיב ואחוים ולא יועיר כל החמוסוי ורחום יכפר גויים ולא ירשיש וירבו להושיב אחוים ולא יועיר כל חמוסוי כאן מהדרך ורחום יכפר גויים ולא ירשיש והרבו להושיב אחוים ולא יועיר כל חמוסוי ככה מהדר מדבר
נצח נצח
לקדושים אשר באורץ אימו ואדירי כל חפצי בו ירבו עצבו ישמח חרמו ובלסיך נזכם מידום ובלסו שמו ישמל ספוסוי אדוני מנס חלקי וחויסי אתו מכגוי רולי חבולים נופלו לי בנעימים אף נחלס שופרו לוי אבורכס אדוני אשר יעוצון יף לילוי סיסרוני חיליוי סוי שיביסי אדוני לנגדי סומית כימיני בלמוית לכן סומך ליבי ויוגל כבודי הבשור ישכון לו בטח כי לא יישא זויב נפשי לשאול לא יסיתן חסיד חולי רויס שוחס תוידי איני אוירח חיים סויבס מוחויס אספונכו נעימויס בימינכו נצח
יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבי ועמד יברח ירצה וימליך מלכותי וחייכנו וימיכנו וחיי לכל בית ישראל הגלה בזמן קריב אמרו אמן יזרח מנסה יתעדר ויתעלם ויתעלל שמי דקושה בריחו לילה מכל וחטא ושירתה תשחתה ונחמתה מירם בימיו אמרו אמן היי שלמה רבה משמעיה וחיים עליהם עלינו כישראל אמרו אמן עושה שלום רב עושה שלום עלינו כישראל אמרו אמן
רב אברהם דוד בן רב שמואל בשם החברה קדישה בשם המשפחה הקרובים הידידים והמלווים אנו מבקשים ממך סליחה ומחילה שמא חס וחלילה פגענו בכבודך הן בטהרה בנשיאת המיטה ובתיקון הקבר אנא סלח לנו כי אין זו אלא שגגה החברה קדישה נהגה איתך כמנהגי ירושלים עיר הקודש ויהנה מליץ יושר עבור משפחתך, קרוביך וידידיך ועבור כל כלל ישראל בכל תפוצות ישראל וייתן השם ויבולע מוות לנצח ומחה השם אלוקים דמעה מעל כל פנים ובא לציון גואל במהרה בימינו אמן. לך בשלום ותנוח בשלום ותעמוד לגורלך לקיץ הימים. כשנצא מחוץ לחלקה באזור הכביש נעשה 2 שורות גברים לניחום אבלים לבנים. את הבת מנחמים בלי שורה. נצא מהכביש האחורי כדי לא לחזור מאותה דרך. גדול
gave it to a trick. Dude, well, you got a lot more than we got. All those words. Holy cow. What, did you look in the dictionary before you came here?
Standing right here.
Not as bad. Champ, Mama Champ, you right? Mama Rockstar. As they say, the tapu.
Really, it's so much. You have no idea. It's a ton.
Every single, she saved one for tomorrow. She's like, every day she ate another one. Yes, no, on the road, yes, because I didn't pay attention. Hey! A little?
You were there. I figure he was on the bench.
Listen, I figure in Orchard I am.
Everyone made an ass. Rosenfield deserved to be on the team.
Really?
נסיעה טובה, בטוח אחורנית, אתה לא יודע. נסיעה טובה.
שידור. Because it was new. I thought I was just learning with it. It's like going to the camera.
סבא וסבתא הסתכלו עליך כמה פעמים.
Telling me I can't wait.